Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. What I'd like for you to do is imagine receiving a phone call from a family member or a loved one, and they are crying hysterically and asking you to pick them up because they have been jailed. You leave your house in a panic, and when you arrive, you find out that they have been brutalized, or even worse, that they lost their life at the hands of another person. How does this make you feel? It makes me wonder, are police being trained that the general public are the enemy and that it is okay to engage in brutality with no recourse? It also makes me wonder, have the police been ordered to use pain compliance, also known as torture, to subdue their citizens? An epidemic of violence is sweeping our nation, and this epidemic is called police brutality. Sometimes it's necessary to define things in order for us to clearly understand them. Police brutality is defined as a civil rights violation, and it occurs when a police officer uses excessive force, which is more than reasonable, against a citizen. Excessive force by a law enforcement officer is a violation of a person's rights. My fellow citizens, I'm here to tell you that police brutality is a systemic problem. It's not only my problem, it's your problem, it's all of our problems. Who is affected by police brutality? I'll tell you about a couple of people that were affected. Barbara Snyder is a white woman who suffered from mental illness. A police officer rammed into her apartment building. Her apartment was locked. They attacked her, and she was shot to death. And her crime was that her music was too loud. Fong Lee, 18-year-old male, he was shot 8 times in the back by a police officer. The police officer rammed his squad car into Fong Lee's bike because he claimed that he was fleeing the scene. The police officer also claimed that he was a gang member who was armed. Later on, video surveillance showed that his hands were empty. Artis Graham, the 35-year-old African-American man, he died 6 days after being brutally beaten with flashlights and batons, while his hands were cuffed behind his back. The police officers alleged that he was fleeing the scene of a crime. This is Andrew Meyer. Andrew Meyer was at a presidential campaign and decided to voice his opinion by asking the nominee some questions about his membership or his involvement in the Skull and Bones secret society. The police officer decided they were going to arrest him, so they forcefully threw him to the ground and they tasered him. They put 50,000 volts of electricity through his body. When does this end? Here's some interesting statistics. In 1994, Congress passed a Police Accountability Act, and this act required that the Attorney General office report data so that the public would know about these excessive cases of misconduct. In 2010, there were more than 2,500 cases of misconduct, and the largest percentage of these cases were due to excessive force. The same applied in 2009. For these cases, 33% were charged went through to conviction. 64% were convicted and received prison sentences. These prison sentences served an average of 14 months. Police brutality is real. Real people are dying unjustly due to criminal police. Police have to be held accountable for their actions, and we as citizens have to demand that policies and practices are put into place in order to prosecute police officers who act in this manner. We as citizens in our community can stop police brutality right here, right now, if we stick together and we demand a climate that says we will no longer tolerate this type of behavior. It's time for police officers to remember that their duty is to protect and serve. They're supposed to protect the citizens against criminals, and they are never to engage in acts of enforcement or exercising power in a cruel manner, and they should never abuse their positions of authority. We live in a society that is governed by laws, not by individuals, and no one should ever be above the law, to include police officers. I thank you very much for your time.